We are picking up on Chaf Gimel Amud Aleph. We are on 23a. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We are 8 lines down from where it starts to get wide. We are up to Amar Yaakov Minoy Rav Yehuda. So, the Gemara is going to be talking about why we have, what the reason that we have the people for the Aliyahs that come up there. So, Amar Yaakov Minoy Rav Yehuda. Yaakov Minah. So some of the Farshim say it doesn't mean Yaakov the Min, which is what he was, but it means it had a different translation because they wouldn't be quoting a min if that was the case. Anyway, so he said, Hani Shishad Yom Kippurim Keneged Mi. Who are the 6 people that get an aliyah? What do they correspond to? Where do we get it from? So Amar Lei, he said to him, Keneged Shisha Sha'amdu Miyamino Shel Ezra V'Shisha Mismolo. There were 6 people that stood to the right of Ezra and 6 people that stood to his left. Where do we see that? Shenamar, it says in the pasuk, V'Yamod Ezra Hasofer Al Migdal Eitz Asher Asul Adavar that Ezra stood by the tower which they made. Vayamod etzlo, and here are the 6 now. Matisya, V'Shema, V'Anya, V'Urya, V'Chilkiya, Umaisei al Yamino. Those 6 were on his right hand side, and on the left side, Umismolo, Pedaya, Umishal, Umalkiya, V'Chusham, V'Chashbana, Zachari, Meshulam. So those 6 were on the left hand side. So because of that, that's what corresponds to who the 6 were on each side. We're on Chaf Gimel Aleph 23a, like right smack in the middle of the Amud. So Gemara says, wait a second, Hani Shiva Havu. If you look to the left, that's not 6, that's 7. Derek.
Oh shoot.
No, it's okay. No, I mean, no, we're welcoming to everybody that wants to come here, but it's... So he says, that's not 6, that's true, because if you count the names, he says that's really 7. So he says, so the Gemara answers, Hainu Zachariah, Hainu Meshulam. No, that Zachariah and Meshulam, the last 2 names that he said that were standing on the left, says Zachariah Meshulam. He says that was really the same person. V'mai kar Meshulam, why was he called Meshulam? The Mishlem Ba'ovdei, because he was complete in everything that he did. He was a big tzaddik, so they called him Zachariah Meshulam. So the Gemara says, Ibailahu, Maftir Maushiyalo Min Yeshiva. When the person's called up for Maftir, does he count for the 7 people that would be called up on Shabbos when they would get called to the Torah? Rav Huna Rav Yirmei Barabba, they have a machlokas whether it counts or not. Chadam or Olav.
Sorry, you skipped.
Did I skip? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just so eager to keep going ahead. I'm sorry. Tan Rabbanan. That was just a test. You all passed. Okay. Yes. Sorry about that. Hakol Olon Leminyan Shiva. That everyone counts to the 7. Vafilu Katan, Vafilu Isha. Even a Katan and even a woman can get an Aliyah, and they're going to count for the 7. Aval Amru Chachamim Isha Lo Tik Rabatarim Ne Kavod Tzibur. That a woman should not get called up because they're covered for the Tzibur. What does that mean? It means that if the woman's being called up, really the men have more of a chiyuv of an obligation to hear the Torah than the women do. Yeah. So if the woman gets called up, people are going to think, oh, wait a second, if they're not calling up a man, it must be because the man doesn't know how to read the Torah, so it's going to be kind of insulting to him. So therefore they said that it's better that they should call up, that you could do it, but it's better not to. And they also say that when it says that women and children count towards the minyan, the Farshim say it does not mean that you can call up all women and children for the 7. You have to have men that are being called up, because if you remember, really the original takana was just have one person get an aliyah. So therefore, if you have a man that gets it, so the other people that are reading, which is just part of the takana, so that would be okay if it's women or children. The Gemara says now, Ibailahu. Oh, deja vu, this sounds familiar. Maftir Marshiyal Min Shiva. Do you say that Maftir counts or not for the count of 7 people that would be getting the aliyahs? Rav Huna, Rav Yirmei Barabba, Chadam or Olav, Chadam or Ein Olav. One says that it does count, one says that it doesn't count. So Mandam or Olav, the one that says that Maftir does count as part of the 7. Why? To Hakari, because the bottom line is that the person who's getting the aliyah is reading from the Torah, so therefore he must count for the minyan. Umanda Amar Ein.
I have a question.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Adam.
If you don't mind, I think it's a quick step. This whole thing about a woman shouldn't read the Torah.
Yep.
Out of dignity for the
men.
tzibur.
Yeah, right.
For the men. Why doesn't it say anything about modesty? You would think it would say, because they always seem to.
So that first of all, that comes up a lot. Like when when a woman is saying Kaddish, because if a woman is an Avel, so she says Kaddish. I mean, I know that like in Shomri, very often there's a woman that will be davening. The women will daven there if they're in Avelis and there's an all say Kaddish. They'll say Kaddish for whoever they're saying it for. So I think they say that a man is supposed to say Kaddish with them because for tznius purposes.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's just I'm surprised.
I don't know.
I've never seen this before.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The Gemara is more liberal than you thought it was. That's I don't know.
We have to do something about
that. Okay.
Go on.
So anyway, so do we say, do they count? So when the person is reading maftir, does he count or not? So the one that says that he does count for the aliyah, why does he count the hakari? Because the bottom line is that he is reading from the Torah, so therefore he should count for the he should count for it. Umanda amar ena ula, the one that says that he doesn't count kida ula. He says like ula says damar ula. Why is it the person that reads the maftir navi, right? Because the way that it works is someone gets called up for maftir, and then he does the haftorah. He reads from the neviim. So Ula says, why is it that the person who's reading from the Haftorah, why is it that he first reads from the Torah? So Gemara says they cover the Torah because it's out of respect for the Torah, because it's not respectful that a person should get up there and just read from Nevi'im when the Torah is there. So therefore, out of respect for the Torah, we say read a few psukim from the Torah first, and then you can go ahead and read from the Nevi'im. The kivan the mishum cover Torah, and since the reason why you're reading from those psukim is not because of an aliyah, you don't have an obligation to do it, it's just to give respect to the Torah, so then l'minyan lo salik, so it doesn't count for one of the 7 people that are supposed to get an aliyah, and therefore that's just an extra aliyah that you're getting when they're reading from the Torah. So Gemara says now, meisvei, hamafter b'navi lo yivchos me'asrim ve'achab psukim, that a person who reads the Haftorah should not be less than 21 psukim, keneged shiva shekara b'Torah, because it's representative of the 7 people who read from the Torah, and we're going to learn that you can't read less than 3 psukim. So 7 times 3 equals 21. So Haftarah should be 21 psukim. So Gemara says, "V'im Isa," and if you say that the person who read maftir is not counted as one of the 7, meaning he's not doing it, but he's going to be an 8th person. So Esrim Arban Havi, then you're going to have 8 people that are going to be called to the Torah, and you should really have to have 24 psukim that are going to be written in the maftir. So Gemara answers no. Kivan the Mishum Kavod Torah, because since it's also out of respect for the Torah, so Kenegdo Nami Lo Boy, so you don't have to do it, because turning to Chav Gimel Amud Beis. So really, you're right. He's reading it, and he is an 8th person, but there's no question that part of the reason why he's doing it is also because of Kavod Torah. So since it's that's one of the reasons, so we don't have to do 3 psukim Keneged. So Maskav Rava V'Hari Olosechem Sefu D'Lohavin Esrim V'Achad. You told us that we're supposed to read 21 psukim when you read the Haftorah. This Haftorah of Olosechem Sefu that doesn't have 21 psukim. The Korean, we still read it. So why are you able to do that? My answer, Shani Hasam, it's different. It's Salak and Yana, because since it's all one category, so therefore, even though it's not 21 psukim, that's going to be enough. Just like we said by Vayavo on Purim, we say that we lane, even though you're supposed to lane a minimum of 10 psukim, Vayavo Amalek to the end is only 9 psukim. Why? Because it's only one section it's covering from beginning to end. It's telling you the whole story. So the same thing with this Haftorah, from the beginning to end, it's telling you the Haftorah. Okay. Are you going to say that if it doesn't have if it's not going to be completing the subject, that you don't have that you're okay, that you don't have to have 21 psukim? There was one time, there were many times, that I was in front of Rabbi Yochanan. And once we read 10 psukim, he said that was enough. We don't have to read any more psukim in Haftorah. So we just said that you have to read 21, unless it's one subject matter. But we will be reading 10, which was not covering a complete subject matter, and he would tell us it was stop and it was enough. We don't have to read any more. So my answer is, Malcolm Sheish Turgamon Shani, it depends. If it's a place where there was a Turgamon, where someone who was translating the psukim, they would read it in Hebrew, and then someone could be there and he would translate it into Aramaic, so then it's different. The Tanur Rav Tachlifa Bar Shmuel, Lo Shanu Ella b'makom shein turgman. They only said that you have to have 21 psukim is only in a case where there wasn't a translator. Of a makom sheish turgman posik, but in a place where there is 20, where there's a turgman, then it's enough to just do it. You could stop after 10. And again, the reason why is because, like we said, that on Shabbos we want that we said that Mahar and Latzes that we hurry to go home because we want to be able to enjoy the Shabbos meal. So we don't want to be matriach people. We don't want to trouble them. So if you're going to have a translator, if you're going to have someone read and translate, it's going to do that for 21 psukim. It's going to take too long. So therefore,
tell the Rav this? Like,
what?
The rabbis of the show about this? Like,
that's you could. Well, first of all, I love that Rabbi Silber does that. Isn't that why he does it after davening? Now he gives the drasha because he doesn't want. If people want to leave, they could leave.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like one of the favorite things people hear is when they say, Hashivenu Kadesh Yemenu Kikadem, and then go Yiskada, just go straight into Kaddish. That's always it's a good time. But okay, next Mishnah. So this Mishnah is going to talk about now the things that you're going to do that you have to have a minyan for. So Mishnah says, Aim parson al Shema, you're not able to, you don't divide Shema. This is talking about in a case where, let's say, a bunch of people were davening, and they didn't have a minyan together, so everyone was davening on their own, and then they got a minyan together, so now they wanted to go back, and they wanted to say Birchos Kriya Shema together as part of a minyan. So we say that you don't divide up the Shema and do that with, unless, well, we'll keep going, and you don't open up the Teva in order to say Shemona Esrei for Chazaras Hashatz, vein nosen as kapem, and the Kohanim don't duchen, vein karim b'Torah, and you don't lane, vein maftir b'navin, you don't do Haftorah, vein osin maimud u'moshe, we don't do the standing and sitting up that they would have when a person was in Avelos right after the funeral. The Gemara is going to explain that they would have a whole procession of how they would do it, where the people would stop and they would say something, they would sit down, they would stand up. So we don't do that either. Vein omrim birchas avelim, we don't make the bracha of avelim, which the Gemara will explain. The tanchumi avelim, and also the tanchumi that we give for the avelim, which the Gemara will explain. Which is like again when they would walk through the rows as they're leaving the grave. Uvirchas chasanim or sheva brachos. Ve'ein mizamnim b'shem, and we don't make a bracha of we don't do a zimon where we have 10 people saying Avreich Elokeinu Shechanu Mishalo. We don't do that. Pachos masar. If you have less than 10 people, all these things you would not do them if you don't have at least 10 people. And when it comes to appraising land, if let's say a person was makdish land, he consecrated land to the Beis Hamikdash, and now he decided that he wanted to redeem it. So you have to have an evaluation done to figure out how much does he have to pay back to the Beis Hamikdash in order to redeem it. So you don't do so with land. Tisha v'kohen, you have to have 9 people. And the Kohen, v'adam kiyotz behen, and a person is the same rule that we said you have to have 9 people in a Kohen. And the Gemara is going to explain what does that mean, how a person became kadosh, because a person can't make himself a hektish for the Beis Hamikdash. So the Gemara is going to explain that. Okay, so Minani Mili, where do we know that you have to have 10 people in order to do all these things? So Amar Chia Barava, Amar Yochanan, the Amar Krad says in the pasuk, Kol davar shebekdusha lo yepachas me'asar avinikdash b'soch b'nei Yisrael. That it said that Hashem said that I'm going to be kadosh in front of b'soch b'nei Yisrael. So the key word here is b'soch. Kol davar shebekdusha lo yepachas me'asar, that anything that has kedusha should not be done with less than 10 people. My mashmu, where do you see that from? So the Tanu Reb Chia, Asya Toch, we learn out Gzera Shava, again, where words are the same from one pasuk to another pasuk, so we equate them and we learn out one thing from the other. How do we do that? Ksiv Hacha, it says here, V'nikdash b'soch b'nei Yisrael, that Hashem says that I'm going to become kadosh, I'm going to become holy amongst the Bnei Yisrael. Uksiv Hasim, it says when it's talking about the story of Korach v'Adaso. So it says over there by Korach, he badlu mitoch ha'eda. It said that Hashem said, separate yourself mitoch ha'eda. V'asya Eda Eda, and we learn out in Eda Eda. Again, we make another Gzera Shava. Now we're going to learn out from another pasuk. The Chsiv Hasam Admasei LaEda Harazo said, how long are you going to be with this evil Eda, with this bad group? Ma'alahalan Asara, and just there when it was talking about the Meraglim, right? So 12 Meraglim, 12 spies went out to Eretz Yisrael. 2 of them, Kalev and Yoshua ben Nun, they were fine, right? They were tzaddikim. So it was left with 10. So we learn out from Eda, and we learn out from Toch. So we make the jump to say that if you don't have 10 people, the Kol Davar Shebekdusha, you need to have at least 10 people when you're doing it. The next, the Mishnah said, you don't make this, they would have the procession of having 10 people. Why? Because in those days, because they would say to the mourners, they would say, Imdu Yikaram Imdu Yikaram Amodu, Shvu Yikaram Shvu. It said that you should stand up, Yikaram, like the dear ones, and you should sit down. And it's not right to say less than that if you don't call someone dear ones if you have less than 10 people. So Gemara says, and then the next thing,
Sorry, is that talking about the 10 people who are saying this?
Yes.
Not the recipient.
Right,
Okay.
right. We don't make the bracha of Avelim and Birchas Chasanim. What is that talking about? My Birchas Avelim, what is that? When it says Birchas Uchava was the bracha that they would make in the street. In those days, when the Avelim would come back from the funeral, so they would stop in the street and they would actually wish this to them. So they called it they would call it the bracha Uchava. The Amar Yitzchak Amar Yochanan Birchas Avelim be'asara, that the bracha of Avelim is said with 10 people. Ve'ein Avelim in a minyan, and the Avel does not count as part of the minyan. Why? Because the bracha that they're saying is saying something about the Avelim, so therefore they don't count them as part of the minyan because the bracha is being directed towards the Avelim. And Birchas Chasanim Basara, but when you're making these Sheva Brachos, that is done with 10 men. The Chasanim in Minyan, but over there the Chasan does count as part of the Minyan because that's a general bracha that's being made about Chasan Mikala. It's not like specifically to that person. So then the Chasan will count towards that. Amazon. B'shem pachas masara. We don't make a zimun. You don't bench if you don't bench with saying the Shem Hashem if you don't have 10 people. Kivin debayla meimar nevarich leilokenu batzim masara lav orachara, because since you're supposed to say leilokenu, so if you have less than 10 people, it's not appropriate to do it. The next part was hakarkos tisha v'koyin v'adam kiyotziben. We said that if a person wants to figure out how much is the land worth to appraise it so he could redeem it from the Beis Hamikdash, so you would have 9 people and a Kohen would be counted, right? So a Kohen had to be one of them. Now we're going to learn out how did you know that a Kohen had to be part of that, and how did you know that you could have 9 Yisraelim as the other people? So Aminani, immediately when you know that, Amar Shmuel, Asara Kohanim Ksuvim B'Parsha, that it says in the Parsha when it's talking about when people will be mocked or something, it says the word Kohen 10 times. So Chad Gufe, one is to tell you that you need to have a Kohen there, okay, and then the rest. The next one that's coming after that is going to be coming to exclude. And we say whenever you have an exclusion, after an exclusion, the general rule is that it's coming to include something. So therefore we said, so Tish Yisraelim v'cha Kohen. So it's telling you that you have the Kohen is the first one, and then afterwards when it's saying Kohen, it means it's coming to exclude. We have a Mir Achar Mir, and then it means that you're including that the Yisraelim will be able to count towards to the 10 people. So Gemara says, if that's the case, that you're doing mir achar mir, if that's how you're doing it, ve'ema chamisha kohanim and chamisha Yisraelim, why do we say that it's 5 kohanim and 5 Yisraelim? Why? Because we say the first one is a kohen, then the next one is a mir achar mir, so it's including Yisrael. Then it says kohen again, so it's a mir achar mir, which is now excluding Yisrael, and it's saying that it's including a kohen. Then it's going back again, and it's saying kohen again, so you keep going back and forth. You're going to have 5 exclusions and 5 inclusions, which means, why don't you say that you're talking that you had 5 Yisraelim and 5 kohanim when you're doing it? When it says kasha, you're right, that's actually a pretty good question. And then the last piece before we get to the Mishnah, the Adam Kiyotzi behind that a person is the same thing, that he has to have 9 people in a Kohen. So Adam Kadosh, can a person become Kadosh? He's not able to do that. So what's it talking about? Rabavo, when he said, when he says that I'm putting the value of what I have, I'm putting that on me to be able to make that donation to the Beis Hamikdash. The Tanya, Omer Damai Alai, Shamno Sokav, that a person says that I want to give my value to the Beis Hamikdash, so then we evaluate him, how much would he be worth if he was going to be sold as a slave in the marketplace. V'avid iskish l'karkos, and there's a general rule we know that avadim are hookish to karkos. It means that they're connected to land, that they have the same halachos as land does when it comes to ownership. The Eved iskish l'karkos, that it says when it's talking about avadim, it says you're going to give them over as Yerusha, just like you do just like you do for land. So we learn out that just like land is done with 9 people, with 9 Yisraelim and a Kohen, so to a person when he wants to, if he's makdash himself, he wants to give his value to the Beis Hamikdash, so we evaluate him with 9 people and a Kohen.